Are you ready to become a change maker? Our 48-week postgraduate program in public policy or the PGP may be just the thing for you. This hybrid program is designed to give you both the theoretical foundation and hands-on experience needed to excel in policy making. With a mix of expert-led webinars, in-person workshops, and policy simulation exercises, you'll gain real-world skills along with personalized mentorship. Through our policy programs, we connect good people to good ideas and good networks. Apply now at the link in the description to make an impact.
Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of All Things Policy. My name is Malathi Renati, and I head the policy school at the Takshashila Institution. And today I have with me Cmdr Rajesh Rajagopalan. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Dani Sports Foundation and also the Director at Levin Sports Ultimate Table Tennis. The topic that I wanted to discuss with Cmdr, because he has in-depth administrative knowledge in this area, is about how sports is promoted in the government through PPP, that's public-private partnerships, and also how his role currently at the Dani Sports Foundation and the initiatives that he's essentially currently running, how that plays out. Okay. I'd first like to welcome Cmdr Rajesh Rajagopalan onto this podcast. Thank you, Cmdr.
Thank you, Mal. Thank you for having me on board.
Yeah, thanks, Cmdr. I'll just give a brief introduction of what Cmdr has over the last 3 decades. He's literally spanned both the Indian Navy. He's been part of the Navy. He's consulted. He's been a sports administrator, and he's also served on several committees, including the member convener of the high-level committee overseeing India's Tokyo Olympics preparation. Cmdr is a distinguished sports administrator who's played a pivotal role in transforming India's Olympic program and the sports ecosystem. As the former CEO of the Target Olympic Podium Scheme, better known as TOPS, he led India to its best-ever finish at multiple international sporting events, including the Tokyo Olympics and the Paralympics. He's currently serving as the CEO of Dani Sports Foundation, as I mentioned, and he leads Project Chalan, which has improved physical literacy and sports participation for over 650 students across more than 2,600 schools in India, with a particular focus on improving girl-child participation. So thank you, Cmdr. I think this is quite a wide experience that you have. And out of curiosity, I just wanted to know what your journey has been. I mean, from a commander in the Navy, to taking the role of the CEO of TOPS, and this was between 2018 and 21, if I'm not mistaken.
Around 17 to 21, yeah.
17 to 21, yes, and now heading the Dani Sports Foundation. So if you can just give me, what your journey from the defense to where you are now.
So, Malti, actually, I was born and brought up in an army family. So, sports was very integral to our life, right? We were my dad was posted in some field areas so sports was the only source of entertainment for us. So, sports became an integral part of our life. Right? So, obviously, playing with the Jawans in the army, to participating in schools competition, and then later on representing the school or district or state at junior nationals and all. So sports became a very important part of my life. However, at that time, I'm talking about late 70s and mid 80s, when I was in school, sports was not considered as a career as such. And so obviously, your parents would say that now you need to be serious about studies, and my dad was an officer in the army, and he said, no, I think you played enough, and get into the armed forces, become an officer, you'll get enough opportunity to play. And that is how I gave my exam and got into NDA.
Which sport were you playing, Cmdr, if you don't mind me asking?
So I was a multi-sport. Because of the exposure in the army, I participated in both troop and individual, that is team and individual sport. Nice. I was an athlete. I was a basketballer. I played volleyball at a decent level.
Wonderful.
and quite a few sports as such. And because it was, the focus was not that you have to represent India, the focus was, okay, we should play because it's part of our
Physical
culture.
fitness and
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
fun, right?
And it was very typical of any army family, right? So kids were encouraged to go out in the evening and play. After that, I joined NDA, and NDA sports is a very important aspect of your training curriculum, right? So you play a lot of sports, and probably that is where I, forged friendship with someone who actually got me into sports administration later on, which I'll tell you in a bit. So even in later on in the Navy or Army, I joined the Navy, of course, and there also I got opportunity to play and all, but it was never like a career option, right? Because you were chasing your career in the Navy and a different aspect, because you wanted to be a, whatever specialist in the Navy. And incidentally, I was a missile and gunnery specialist in the Navy. And so it went on. So when I took my premature retirement, and in the Navy also, I represented Navy and I participated in yachting nationals, the team nationals. That was at a senior level.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, I was pursuing my career. And then at one point in time, I realized that I want to get into academics. And that is how I took a premature retirement. And I enrolled myself as a research scholar at Faculty of Management Studies, which is one of the top B schools in the country, as a PhD scholar.
Okay.
And that is when things changed. And when I said that, when I forged a friendship at NDA, and the person who's responsible for getting me into sports administration was Colonel Rajavardhan Rathore. He was my batchmate from NDA, and we used to play together. And our friendship was based on both being good sportsmen, and it continued. And even after he won the Olympics, we used to discuss sports very often whenever we would meet. And because, as I said, that even as a child, when my father introduced me to reading newspapers, because to improve your journal knowledge, it would always start from the last page.
Last,
Because that
so
would
you're
cover
one of those who starts
things.
from
Yeah,
back to
yeah. So
front,
you would
right?
move from there. And actually, if you see that in the newspaper, I think sports is the only subject where 2 pages are really dedicated to one subject.
Yeah,
So
very true.
so
Yes,
and
sometimes more than that if there's an
yeah,
Olympics or
sometimes
some
more than
major
that
event.
when IPL starts or cricket starts. So then it goes beyond 2 pages.
Yes.
So I became a lifelong student of sport from that, and therefore I used to have long discussions with Colonel Rathore, and slowly and steadily, even in the Navy, I realized that I had an eye for identifying a talent, and obviously it would entail using all whatever I learned over the years, studied over the years, and Sports Star used to be a staple diet for us when we were young. So a lot of
Yes.
technical subjects used to be covered once in a while in Sports Star, and that obviously gave me that background to do talent hunting. And when I was an instructor in missile and gunnery school in Navy, we had to pick up a shooting team, which was a combat shooting team, but a competition combat shooting team. And that is the place where I identified first international athlete, not that point in time, called Onkar Singh. So Onkar Singh, I picked him up for combat sport because I saw this young matriculate entry recruit who had just started his training, had never used a weapon. And I saw him in a shooting range and I said, how steady this guy is, with his hand, with his breathing. And I took him to naval shooting team and I said, give him some extra training. One day he'll be rubbing shoulders with you guys.
You
And
saw the
as they say,
potential, right? You could
yeah,
see
and
that.
as they say, rest is history. He went on to win 3 golds, 1 silver at 2010 Commonwealth Games and represented India in 2016 Rio Olympics. So all that was as part of my life, but not as a career as such. So when Colonel Rathore became the minister, we used to have a lot of discussion. And as a regular Indian, I used to crib. You see, now you become the minister, and the expectations are so high from you. But this is not right. That is not right. Like a regular Indians, we crib about things. And so one day he got fed up and he's called me home and he said, "Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. Will you join and do something for the sport?" So I was put on the spot and I said, I'm doing a PhD. It means I've spent 2.5 years He said, no, think about it. This is an opportunity. I said, okay, give me some time, and went discuss with my family. My wife said this was a lifelong ambition to be part of sports somewhere, because I used to keep telling her that as a child I wanted to manage an NBA team, right?
Oh,
So
nice. Okay.
she said, nobody knows you in sporting industry. Nobody knows you in the ecosystem other than this gentleman who knows you, and nobody else will give you this opportunity. She said,
Right.
PhD to fir bhi kar lenge, right? But if you at least give it a shot, because somebody is given you opportunity, and if you feel out of depth, then there is always, you can get back to your
You can fall back on this. Yes.
fall back to your research. And I spoke to my guide, and my guide is also very passionate about sports. He said, yeah, I can understand your dilemma, so go for it. And that is how I joined. And my first instruction by then the honorable minister was, that, I have played sports enough, and I see how athletes run from pillar to post to get support. If you can create a system like that, I think we have achieved a major milestone in this. I said, okay, it's quite a responsibility. So I went back, did my gap analysis, I studied the system. I realized, okay, these are the issues. And then suddenly I realized that there is a system for elite athlete support, especially people whom we think there is a potential. So I started understanding what was the problem of it. So TOPS was already there before I joined as a
Right. It
scheme.
was started in 2014, right? This was
2014
the
as a
same year
scheme.
that the National
Yeah,
Youth Policy started.
but what
Right.
I saw, that there was gaps in, talent identification, because it was
Okay.
one size fits all type kind of a benchmarking which was done. To
Right.
just give you an
Could you give us
example.
an overall, since you're mentioning about the tops, and that's what I wanted to, my next question was on, if you can give an overall view of the objective of tops, and also, for our listeners, of what the goals have been over the last, decade or so.
So, essentially, TOPS was created when the present government came into power first time in 2014. So it was established in
Right.
July 2014, essentially to give that customized support additionally to an athlete whom they thought would be able to get a podium finish at the Olympics,
Right.
or
At the elite stage.
or at least move the needle from where we were at that point in time.
Right. Right.
And they created a lot of committees. One committee was supposed to identify the talent, and the other committee was supposed to be, helping them with the support. But while having committee, all members of this committee were already, employed somewhere, or had a higher responsibility. So there was no dedicated
Not a
team.
key role. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, so it was not a dedicated. Even in the administration side, where where SAI officials were involved, this was like an additional responsibility, and that is where I saw the gap. Because when we started speaking to athletes, they said, "Sir, last 6 months mein humko bahut sara support diya." So even in Rio, while it was a great initiative, but implementation was very poor. And that is where we started seeing the gaps. We saw,
So
like,
was there no
simple as I just,
CEO
no, nothing. There was no
at
team.
that point? Okay, before you came
No,
in. Okay.
there was in 2016, just close to Rio, when they realized that, we are not being able to achieve the targets of this scheme. They established a Mission Olympic cell, so that they could fasten the process under DG SAI, and that is how it started, improving things.
But there's a core group and there's a development group, from what I understand. And the core group is like a tier one.
That was later on. We started that process.
Okay, great. Okay.
So what happened was, when we started seeing it, we said, no, there has to be a dedicated team. There has to be sports specific, benchmarking. So all those kind of things we started. And then we took a proposal to the governing body, of SAI, and we got it approved that a special team will be set up. And the freedom was given on hiring. It was not necessarily that we had to hire from SAI officers. So what we did was, there were a lot of kids who were coming back from their studies abroad doing masters in sports management. That means they showed commitment that they want to be in this particular field itself, right? So they were proper professionals in the sports ecosystem. And sports was not considered as an industry at that point in time. Slowly and steadily, it is taking a shape of the industry. And obviously, there has to be mixed when you're using public money. So what we did was, like, we took a couple of officers from SAI who had great experience and who were ready to work in this system, but knew the official system, right? Because there is a proper process which you have to follow in spending government money, which is rightly so because it's public money.
Yes.
And so we had a mixed bag of people, few from Sai and few from outside, fresh kids who had come from, who had done their sports management and probably worked in few organizations outside in India itself or outside. And they picked up, and then we started setting up things. We created a new system of selection, and there was a customized thing. So we established a research wing for the first time. And probably we were pioneers in research, hardcore research in sports that time. And we established an athlete relationship manager. So that means athlete doesn't have to struggle around. So the support is given at his or her doorstep.
Okay. Just for the listeners, I want to just add that for the tops, the support areas include complete taking care of the athlete's needs. So it's like the training, this could be customized training programs, access to modern sports facilities, competition, both internal and national as well as international, the equipment, so financial support for purchasing sports-specific equipment, and of course, coaching as well, so access to top coaches and support staff like physiotherapists and sports psychologists. And there's a stipend also, right? Was this implemented, Commander, when you took over? Because the monthly stipend, I think, is a very good move. I understand it's around 50,000 for the core group and 25,000 for the development group. But that itself is a substantial number, especially if people are coming from the grassroots, right? And
so the genesis of this, it is called OPA, which is called out-of-pocket allowance, was essentially given to athletes so that they don't have to leave, because a lot of our athletes come from very humble background, right? They're seen by the family as an additional earning hand. We didn't want that to happen to them, that they had to leave sport because, they have to give a support to their family. So if an OPA is given to them, they can, and at least a part of that could go to their families and they could look after themselves so that they don't have to struggle for employment anywhere. And they don't have to leave their sport. That was the main essence of this. And of course, subsequently, when we started developmental group, we started for that. So actually, an athlete would have a designated athlete relationship manager. We would sit with athlete, the research officer, and it was not like we would decide things in isolation. We would sit with their coach. We would sit with the federation. We'll take their inputs. It was a 360-degree kind of approach. And obviously, we would show their analysis that why this athlete should get support or this athlete should not be part of the scheme any further, right? And top names were removed because there was no improvement in performance, right?
Is that the reason? Recently, it was pruned from the core group, right? Was pruned from 120 to 42. And then, of course, the development group has around 122 athletes. Is that the reason why the pruning happened?
This is the latest one. So you can well imagine when I took over or we formed top secretariat and I became the founding CEO, we had 222 athletes.
Oh, in the core group?
So we said it's huge because our last representation in Rio was only 170.
Because then the funds are stretched thin, right? So you would want to focus it only on the athletes who...
So because it's not that athlete who representing India is not getting support. There's something called annual calendar for training and competition. Where the funds from the central government is being given to all the federations. So that is for training, therefore that is for competition. So everything is given this. This is more of a customized. So just imagine, because federation will have to look after the length and breadth of the athletes. That is whoever is representing India, they'll have to represent. They'll have to give the support, and they'll have to also develop the support at the lower level. And they're supposed to send the junior athletes also. This was purely for elite athletes, that is the senior athletes who are representing the country in this. So therefore, and many times what happens is, qualification for Olympics is based on ranking. So you may have to send an athlete for an additional tournament so that they get the ranking points, so that they go up the ranking and they get qualified for the Olympics. So it has to be customized to a particular athlete, particular sport. The demands are different. There may be an additional requirement of equipment or specialized coaching from abroad, or a training stint abroad for a couple of months under the best training conditions with the best.
And this also includes para athletes, so the facilities provided for them.
Yes,
all that is covered. Right?
Yeah. So it is both for elite athletes, that is able-bodied, as well as the para athletes, right?
Right.
Uh, I can say with a lot of pride that in our 4 years, and I'm sure it is continuing because I've never heard a complaint on this, that not a single athlete had to step inside to get their case cleared or they get their support cleared, and it's still continuing. And I think that was the biggest achievement which we had, and no support was delayed. So I can tell you many such stories. I remember when I had just taken over, we met Mirabai, right? And we saw her as a probable Olympic medalist, and she had just come back from Gold Coast, Commonwealth, and she was nursing an injury. So a lot of things were going. She met a lot of doctors, including OGQ, where she was being supported. They had taken, we had taken, and then Asian Games were approaching. So I had to actually, one day I sat with her coach and her in a hotel because she was taking some treatment in Delhi. So I went to her and I said, let's forego Asian Games. She says, I have never got a medal in Asian Games and I want to get it. I said, Olympics is bigger target for us. And that's why I have a huge respect for this athlete, because I think in my book, Mirabai and Neeraj are the top two athletes. I mean, as an ideal, athlete should
That
be.
resilience and, that determination.
Everything,
Focus.
they're understanding, they're very grounded, they understand what is right. And she immediately agreed, okay, sir, let's train for this. And in the bargain, we had sent her to US, where Dr. Horshid was there, who was himself a weightlifter and then converted to physiotherapy. And he got her back on feet. And she got a confidence that, okay, I'm really doing well. And she went and broke the world record in the clean and jerk, which was her favorite. And it was still lingering in her mind that, in Rio, she failed in her best event. That was clean and jerk, right? And here she broke the record and she was heading towards Olympics. So she wanted to go back to US to train there so that, she goes in, she will absolute top shape to Tokyo. And you remember that COVID happened at that time. And the second wave has started. And she had not gone home. She's so dedicated. She had not gone home for last 2 years. She said, before I go to US, let me go home, meet my mom, and then go to US. And the moment second wave hit, Delta wave hit, we got worried. I said, US will close down anything, anytime. And I said to Mira, why don't you go to US immediately? Because medal is more important. She said, no, sir, I have to go home because I have not met. And we knew that things are happening very fast, at very fast pace. The COVID,
It's unpredictable
was rising.
at that point.
So this is where I say that everyone, that was our biggest achievement, that we got all stakeholders on the same platform, be it the, federation, be it the MOC, be it the not-for-profit organization supporting them, be it the government or the ministry. I immediately gave a call. I spoke to DG. He said, yes, this is the right decision. We should send her out. Mr. Pradhan told me this. He was the Director General then. I spoke to the federation, spoke to the president. This is the thing. He said, no, sir, she will not agree. She has to go. I said, let's get on a con call. Within 5 minutes, you won't believe it, everyone left their job and got on a call, including Mira. And we told her, Mira, you have to go there because we don't know.
A very small window and you don't know.
We don't know when they will stop. And this was, I still vividly remember that this was 30th April. And within 1 day, her physio didn't have a visa. So we sent another person from OGQ. And Olympic, Viren said, yes, sir, we will send this guy. No problem. And we sent the coach and the gentleman from OGQ, Anukul Bhadwaj, he was also willing. He said, okay, I'll go. Poor chap, suddenly out of the blue, we told him to go. Mira got ready. We got 70 lakhs approved in MOC within half an hour. I just had to give a call to all the members and DG, and they all joined in. Within half an hour, we cleared her 70 lakhs and we sent her on 2nd. She left Delhi. 30th April, 2nd May, she left. She reached US on 3rd May. And 4th May, US banned entry from India. And as they say, rest is history. She went on to win the silver medal at Tokyo.
Another thing that just stood out when you told me is that the very fact that you were able to get things moving really quick, right, from the government. It could be either from her visa to getting the amount approved. I've heard of stories in the past where it used to take weeks, if not months, to get things moving, right, in the government space. So I think that there's a big shift that's happened there too.
Very big shift. The needle has really moved, Malti, because MEA was, walking shoulder to shoulder with us. Their joint directors would be ready, taking the call at any point in time. Their joint secretaries, their secretary, even secretary MEA, foreign secretary was ready, and even the minister at that point in time would be ready to take a call from the Minister of Sports, and we would get things happen. I remember how we sent Neeraj out because COVID was spreading here. We wanted him to train outside because he was not getting enough competition. And the ministers, MEA, and with the embassies, it was a constant thing. And even like, I don't know if you remember, that time there was a policy that below 45 will not get their second
the
vaccine. And we were seeing that there was a lot of things happening at the organizing committee level, and they had started taking out instructions that people from so and so country will have to do 14 days quarantine and all. And during one of our briefing, we told Honorable Prime Minister that, sir, this is something which may trouble our athletes. And you won't believe it. Within a second, he said, let's get all the athletes, all the supporting staff, everyone, please take out an order today that they will get their second vaccination. But for us, Neeraj was already outside and he had not got the second vaccination. So we, through MEA and Indian embassy there, we got his second vaccination done, I think in Finland or Norway, where he was training at that point in time. So the whole machinery was working in a very smooth fashion, and everyone was stepping up and doing more than what the charter was.
No, this is wonderful. I mean, it's so nice to hear these stories, because unfortunately the impression that the government creates rather can be quite a poor one in many people's eyes, right? So, but when you hear this, and this is what I wanted to also get to know from you, because you've been inside, behind the scenes, if you worked not just with the athletes, but also in the top scheme, which is so instrumental in where we are, right? Even on the Olympic stage. So it's nice to hear this, and nice to know that efforts have been made by different stakeholders.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Sorry, Malathi.
No, go ahead, Commander.
So I was just saying that, this present dispensation, and I'm not making a political statement as such, this present dispensation has made that effort and understood that sports is a very big soft power for the country.
Right.
And there have been incidents even previously where Olympic medalists have not been met at the higher echelons in the government. But today, every step, if the high level committee, this was never there. It is there where ministers, IOA, everyone is involved in it. NSFs are involved in it, right? To just give you an example, we had an injury scare just before Tokyo Olympics where Bajrang was training in Russia, and he got injured. And now there was very short window, only I think 2 months or so, and he had had a minor meniscus tear or ACL tear. So we had set up a centralized athlete injury monitoring system where we had got the top doctors of India on board. So the athlete doesn't have to even go to them. Just send the report. We'll set up a VC, we'll advise them, and whoever is the attending physio or physician, they will start running the protocol. And in Bajrang's case, Dr. Padiwala from Bombay sitting, and Russia, and Bajrang was sitting in a place in Russia which is not very well, it's not the main hub, but it's a wrestling hub. And even the Indian embassy in Russia, and we got him games ready and recovery set, costing almost 10 lakhs or so. In no time, we told the Russian Indian embassy in Russia, Moscow, to get it, procure, and we'll pay for it. And Dr. Padiwala was actually attending to him, right, sitting in this. And and just before Tokyo, he was in decent shape. May not be in the top shape, but because he has to be a bit careful, because when you're carrying an injury and you're just recovered from injury, but he still went on to win a medal.
Right.
So if everyone coming together, an embassy coming together, even Tokyo embassy for that matter, they till COVID happened, they had already mobilized the Indian diaspora there, right? They had got Indian restaurant owners to come to the place where we had advised that let's establish a India house where Indian athletes could come and have proper Indian food, which is nutritious and safe for them. So everything. What touches my heart is like when Rahi Sarnobat during, because COVID we used to have virtual interaction. She told secretary that, "Sir, पहले तो हमको 3 months or 4 months पहले before Olympics we used to get support. Today, when the Olympic cycle starts, people touch base with us, and the 4-year cycle is planned with us, and at every step we get a report." So I don't think so. When you're working for Olympic sport, a more satisfying statement can be there on that.
Right, yes, and I think we've come a long way, because also economically being one of the fifth largest, right, economic powerhouse now, and we are kind of only on the way up. I think the good thing is that because of the extra disposable income, right, especially in the middle class, we are seeing sports as not just for fitness or just for casual play, but people are actually thinking of career options. And it's as you mentioned, the needle is moving on many fronts. And the government too sees it not just as a soft power, but also can see the second order impact that it'll have from your manufacturing, tourism, you name it, tech, across many areas.
Many sectors.
Yes. Commander, I know we're running out of time, but just one question I had was, I wanted to know the role that PPP, that's a public-private partnership, plays in supporting government initiatives like the TOPS. You did mention that, for example, OGQ has been supporting some athletes. Likewise, we have Go Sports and others too, right? But the important role that PPP can play, and if you can just share your insights and advice on that.
So, Go, OGQ, Reliance, JSW, they're doing a fantastic job, and I had a great relationship with them, and they, till date, they say that was the best part, is that we all came together because we are working for the same objective, right?
Right.
And probably there was a perception that the government is not doing enough, so athlete requires a support and there.
Right.
But now they've also realized that the government is doing enough. The Khelo India is doing at the grassroots level, TOPS is doing at the elite athletes level. Right. But I think there has to be a shift in the kind of support, because we still not reached that stage as US, where US OPC actually funds every federation. Other than BCCI, nobody can fund their entire support. So the government support is required, right? But there are ways and means where these organizations, when I'm saying public-private, it could be a corporate, it could be a not-for-profit organization. They could work in tandem with the National Sports Federation, because we still are a country where the divide between haves and have-nots is huge. So the priorities for the government, welfare is one of the higher priorities, so health, education, employment, that becomes. So sports is still not at the top of the thing, and we cannot afford to that. So therefore, these corporates and non-profits have to support these federations, and the resources are limited. And if we have to use optimally, we can't be giving individual support as such. We want to give that athlete a support. But if we work in tandem, the same resource can be used by 8 athletes, 5 athletes. But when you're giving individual support, then you are wasting your resources, because one athlete may be somewhere else, the other athlete is somewhere else. As an organization, if I'm individual organization supporting. So to start that, in just after Tokyo, I had spoken to Viren, I had spoken to Go, those kind. And now you see that thing happening. So even Dani Sports Foundation as such and OGQ, we have joined hands, and we wanted to show the world that 2 organizations can come together and work. So and not 2, even Sports Authority of India. So we are working at Sports Authority of India, National Center of Excellence at Rohtak, which is for Center of Excellence for boxing. And we do the capability building of that. We have got a foreign coach who is the only foreign coach to ever have won a Dronacharya award, Mr. Blas Fernandez from Cuba, who's there. And we have added some sports science people, and we regularly review that. We add whatever shortages in equipment is there. So it's a great way to go ahead, and probably the trust level is also going up now. So the corporates are ready to work with the government.
Because the results are also there to be seen, right? So instead of working in silos,
absolutely.
if everyone can come together and leverage on their strengths.
Absolutely.
And I think this is, like you correctly mentioned it, we can't expect the government to be doing everything. They did, help because in the last many decades since our independence, right? There's so many other priorities that they have to attend to, and they have to continue to attend to, right? And capacity is one area that the government does lack in, capacity, expertise. And that is where the markets as well as the society needs to step in. And collectively, I'm sure we can take sports forward in many ways. So the PPP is just the start. It can be. They can also be individual markets in terms of businesses around this, for profit as well as the not for profit, as well, and also society to kind of break those barriers. And that's something that of course, that's a discussion in itself. But breaking those barriers to ensure that there's equity as well is important.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I'm running out of time, but I'd love to have another discussion with you, Commander, on specifically on what Dani Sports Foundation is doing, for example, because there's a lot of lovely initiatives there. But if you could just last question that I have for you, if you, this is again hypothetical, but if you could change one thing in the Indian sports ecosystem overnight, what would it be and why?
What I would probably change is the base of the pyramid. How things work at the base of the pyramid.
Right.
And that is, unless you have 10,000 athletes, you can't get one Neeraj. If you have 10,000 athletes doing javelin, then you'll get one Neeraj Chopra on top getting a medal. And this is where probably we have to have a proper intervention, which is planned, organized. There are various issues which I would like to change. One is the age fraud in this. And that's because we are not stringent at the ground level, at the grassroots level. Once we are there and you have a national repository, you get registered on the one go. First day itself, when you step on a field, you can clear that. Second, I feel that states have to step up. Central alone can't do it. Right. So there are a few states who are setting examples.
Sports is a state subject also.
Yeah. Sports is a state subject. And I think Central alone can't do this. And at grassroots especially, it is the state who have to do. And there are states who are leading by example, be it Orissa, be it Gujarat, and Madhya Pradesh. I think every state has to step up on that and create a system where there is enough human resource who can train these people and identify them correctly on potential and not only on performance. So coach development is one thing which I think everyone will have to work. As a nation, we'll have to work.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Commander. I think you've covered some very valid points. And these are areas that we need to focus on. And even our listeners, whoever is involved, I think it's also starts with a society, right? The integrity and that we kind of also work with it. That's at the school level, at the college level, university, and then it kind of translates. Thank you so much, Commander. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you, Malathi. This was a privilege to be on your platform.
Yeah, thanks, Commander. For our listeners, I just want to remind you all that there is an upcoming 3-week capsule course on sports. This is on women's sport and starting this Saturday. The last day for registration is this Thursday. So this course is for anyone who is interested in the sports ecosystem, and we're looking at the perspective of women's sport and also looking at how women's sport has evolved in India and how we can improve the governance, involve the markets, and also transform society from being just spectators to enablers of change. The last date, once again, is this Thursday, 10th April. So I would urge you to just either spread the word or do join in. It's 3 weeks and it's curated for working professionals as well as students. Thank you once again, and I'll see you all in the next episode of All Things Policy.
If you liked our show, dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs. Check us out at our Twitter handle @TakshashilaINST or our website takshashila.org.in.